What's this? Very funny, man.
Action.
Eli, we've got a clown in a cornfield and a journalist in a car.
Perfect. Yeah. I think of all kinds of murdering schemes for you in the back of that car.
What's the first one that comes to mind?
Oh, somebody's smashing through that back window for sure.
Yeah,
taking
just like
you out.
grabbing me is like, Wah!
That's
Straight out the
right.
back. That's now the first and most obvious question I think after watching this movie is do you ever worry about the impact movies like this have on the clowning industry?
You know, I've been concerned about the clowning industry for years, but there's a huge resurgence of it in America. You might have seen lately that clowns are everywhere in the US, especially in our government. So, no, I think the clowns are doing fine. I think they're doing all right.
Oh, that's good to know. Why do you think that they have always been this kind of terrifying figure in slasher movies and horror movies?
You know, I've been asked that, so I've had a chance to think a fair bit about it, and I think there's multiple reasons, but I do think clowns themselves, the origins of it, have basically been around in human culture forever. Like Egyptians had like a version of clowns, and many cultures have their versions of tribal cultures have a version of clowns, and there's something about the exaggerated facial features you have with clowns mixed with a duality or a not really tricksterish quality to them that is both like entertaining and funny and often foolish, but they can be very deceitful. And so I think people have made movies about them because A, it's a part of human culture in so many different cultures, but B, there's this like scary duality where you just can't really tell what they're thinking behind this mask of joy. And so that's something that as any sort of horror mask maker is kind of thrilling. You're going to make something that just has a big smile on it, but is actually evil. It's really fun to play with.
Yeah. And I think it's also the sort of the inherent glee that comes with a clown when you kind of apply that to, sort of psychotic intent. I think it just kind of just ramps up that sort of psychopath vibe.
Totally. And the inherent glee is something I try to play with in this film. And I thought tonally it was something where you could bring a sort of lightness and a sort of clownish sense of humor to a really dark and disturbed horror film. And trying to balance those two tones, it was quite fun, actually.
Yeah. It's, I was going to ask what appealed to you the most about taking on this project, but I think you just kind of just summed it up. It feels like it is so in the middle of your wheelhouse.
Look out!
But in terms of the specifics of the original novel, and then this project and adapting it, like I guess what jumped out at you initially as this is a project that you could really sink your teeth into.
Well, there's some twists that happen I was looking for a project that I could really kind of sink my teeth into the horror side with action. I love action movies. I have never had a budget or like the ability to make like a big action movie, but man, if you gave me Terminator 5 or something, I would be stoked. So this had this sort of action pacing quality, especially for the second half of the movie that I loved. Or the book had that. And then I thought there was a chance to just bring a sense of humor to it all as well. And ultimately my movies I like to think of them as optimistic movies, or at least you're left with a sense of joy. So it's a bit of a strange ride because they go very dark. And of course, some people don't make it, or a lot of people don't make it in this case. But at the end of the film, I like a character arc where the final girl in this case like comes out stronger for all the struggle she's been through. So that was all really appealing to me to take on.
Do you know how many liters of fake blood you used in this production?
I do. Leaders wise,
Or gallons?
I, I was, it was like over 50 gallons. It was like 75 gallons of blood because we had to cover a car in blood too.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Yeah,
it was a
there was
lot.
there was a lot. And what's your favorite kill in the movie?
Um, to me, without giving any spoilers, well, my favorite is really the final kill. Well, not the final. Yeah, actually, my favorite is probably the final kill, which is I don't know how much to give away, but
There's a lot of splatter.
there's a
Put it that
lot
way.
of splatter. Yeah, and I it was like conceived as like my one sort of CGI shot where I would have all these things happen that showed why the splatter would happen. But once I saw it, and it was just a visual effect of just a whole bunch of blood flying at a vehicle, I was like, you know what? That is going to stay that way. I don't need the CGI. And that's why
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
you don't need to embellish it. It's
No.
and I also really appreciated this sort of this undercurrent in the film, sort of examining the differences between generations, whether it's
Mhm.
sort of the utter confusion of trying to use a rotary phone to try and call
Yeah.
911. Which as someone with a 13-year-old daughter, I'm sure she would also be completely confused. Um, and this idea that maybe which generation has been worse for the world or is worse, and for me it's probably between boomers and millennials.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gen X, that we both are, get a pass, like
Yeah.
obviously the coolest generation. But
Yeah,
where
but
do you
we've done
where do,
nothing. We've done
yeah, we,
nothing in our life.
we made a lot of cool movies and music,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
that's
in
true.
terms of beyond that, no, sweet fuck all. But
Yeah.
what generation for you is the one that is the most annoying?
Well, it's definitely the baby boomers now. And I mean, I
Yeah,
think that this film brings that out. There's the generational divide in this film. And of course, where you have Gen Z and they're pitted more against like, Gen X in this movie, but they're a
yeah,
symbol of like the old school sort of baby boomers kind of hanging on to power in their town. And I was just thinking to myself about this generational conflict. And I truly think never in the history of humanity has there been a generation that has taken so much from the younger generation. And I love my parents, I want them to live forever, but it seems baby boomers live forever. They hold the power forever. They've taken all they've kind of pulled forward all of their retirement so that the people working today pay for it. And they've harvested and reaped the resources of the world and not cared one drop, it seems, about the environment that the kids are going to live in. So, yeah, I mean, I'm angry at the um, where our society has gone and where the baby boomers have led us. And I think this film shows that. But I also don't think Gen Z is making all the right moves either. And so, there's no real. There's definitely good people in this movie, but there's no like good generation. They're both kind of messing up. But the worst generation is the one that has the power and is still holding on to it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the classic thing in the film is when the Gen Zs sort of talk to the villain, to call the villains boomers, which is just like a
Yeah.
classic Gen Z thing. Like they so lack sort of broader context that they think
Yeah.
Gen Xers are boomers. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, like
Yeah.
it's insulting.
It's like one of the lines is like there's something wrong with the old people in this town. Like
Yeah,
everybody's old after if you don't
yeah.
have like an Instagram account with 10,000 followers, or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's
But
it's it's so good. Don't even get me started on Gen Alpha, my daughter's generation. It's like that's
yeah.
I don't know. I worry about the world. Put it that way. And now
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
quickly, I want to talk about Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I see the poster over there
Yeah.
behind you, which it's clear what a big part of your career that movie will always be. It's a
Mm.
cult classic for a reason. I guess what does it mean to you to know that you have created something that just has this special place in pop culture?
Well, I'm learning more about that now than ever as I have these meetings and talk to people and kind of reemerge from my cocoon. I live in North Vancouver, Canada. I raise my kids here. I have a pretty quiet life, so I'm not running into people all over the place that are like think I'm a celebrity. But within a small, well, if within genre lovers, they do love Tucker and Dale, and I just feel like I'm not crazy because when I first made the film, I thought this is going to be Evil Dead 2. Like this is going to be the classics that I loved watching as a kid, and it sort of wasn't for a little bit of time. Like it just came out in a few film festivals, and then it went to a couple theaters, and then it just disappeared for a few years. But I feel like people have been able to discover that film, like personally discover it one at a time over the past 15 years. And every time somebody discovers it, it's not like commercialization, or it's not like they were advertised it or something. It's like they were referred to it from a friend. And so it feels more just grassroots and real. And I think because of that, and because it is so indie, people take this ownership of it and this love of it. And it honestly means the world to me now. Like my battle to make that film kind of paid off. And I was able to plant some seeds years ago that I watered for a while and grew into a little tree. And I thought, all right, well, it grew into a little tree. That's cool. I walked away and I came back and it's like this massive oak tree in horror fandom. And it's incredible, really.
Yeah, like it reminds me a lot of, it's like the streaming equivalent of those movies from the from the 80s, those great movies that you're talking about, like Evil Dead 2, where one of your mates at school would say, "Oh man, you got to watch this movie," and then you'd go to the Blockbuster and get the VHS, and then you would watch it, and then you would tell a mate about it. It feels like that. It's the same thing has happened, but via streaming this time for a sort of a modern audience. And like you must have had thoughts, had opportunities to make a sequel. What is happening with that? Will we ever see one?
I'm not sure. There's more complications. Like when a studio makes a movie and they own it, there's absolutely the chance to make a sequel when it makes a lot of money. In this case, there were like a lot of different rights holders of the movie, and I just battled to get the thing made. But then, like, I don't own the rights to the movie. So it's one of those situations where like copyright law and there's multiple people who own the rights, and they're all fighting amongst each other. And it's a messy, like in a business sense. And if it had been an easy thing to come together and make a sequel out of it, it would have happened. But it just, on the business level, it's more difficult than people can conceive of.
Yeah, like I assume there probably was a story like that, because you know what Hollywood's like these days. It's like any kind of IP that has any cachet, it's just like let's go back to the well as quickly as possible.
Well, and that's true, but it also, like, in some ways, I kind of am thankful that it didn't get to be diluted. Tucker and Dale as two characters are amazing, right? Like Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, I think would lighten up any movie and make it fantastic. But it's hard to do that kind of satire a second time, because so much of what Tucker and Dale is it's reversing the tropes and surprising people because they've never seen it before. And it's once you do that once, you're kind of trying to emulate that again. And some people love franchises. I mean, the Scream franchise is great, but I still think Scream 1 is the best.
Yeah.
And so, there's a part of me that's like, hey, I nailed it with Tucker and Dale. Why mess with it?
Exactly. That's why I only had one child.
There you go. Perfect example.
Okay, so you mentioned that you would love to do a big budget blockbuster. I'm a studio boss. Here's $250 million, Eli. Like, give me a pitch. What is the film? Who is your lead cast?
My lead cast is Katie Douglas from Clown at Cornfield, and Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, and they are in a spaceship together, escaping from Elon Musk's version of Earth. They've stole his Mars-headed spacecraft to go to another planet and settle there because now Earth is ruled by Elon Musk.
terrifying. Like somehow that's even scarier than the clowns.
Yes, that's
amazing. No, you got the green light on that one. It's a no-brainer. And so, what do you hope? What do you hope audiences come out of Clown in a Cornfield thinking and feeling?
I mean, ultimately, I want them to have a fun ride where the kind of movie where you leave being like, that was so much fun. That was awesome. Like the feeling comes first for me. And I want them to feel kind of excited and in a way uplifted. But beneath that is like, look, I think the movie is a little bit about our times as we've been discussing. And part of the thing about darkness is that you need to have light within it. And part of surviving through any sort of dark times is about a sense of humor. Finding a way to laugh when things are at their worst, finding a way to kind of win, to beat the rage by having a sense of humor is so important to me. So I hope people look at this and be like, thankful that there's elements of humor within this, what would otherwise just be a really dark movie about a clown coming after a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just that we could embrace humor as humanity's greatest gift.
Yeah, well, look, if you can't laugh these days, you're probably going to just curl up into the fetal position and cry yourself to sleep. Eli, it's been awesome to talk to you. Congratulations on the movie, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. Love talking to you.
Take care.
Thank you.
And cut.